Hello everyone, my name is Ivan and welcome to the channel. In today's video, we are going to continue with the recording process of our song. In this case, we are going to record the bass. I will show you guys what is my method, what is my approach, the way I record the bass in Pro Tools, some edits that I do, and you will be able to see basically how I record the bass for my own songs. So if you haven't, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you're aware every time that new content is added to the channel. And also don't forget to hit the like button. Today I would like to start by doing a quick recap of what has been our process so far. So it all started with my idea of documenting the process of making a rock song, starting from an idea that I had recorded in a voice memo all the way until the song is recorded and mixed, mastered, and up in the digital platforms. So that was the initial idea, and it all started with a songwriting series. You can check it out by clicking on the link here. In that series, I showed you guys what is my songwriting approach, and the goal in the series is to create a draft song. So I showed you guys what is my approach to creating an intro, verse, chorus, the bridge. I showed you guys my process of writing lyrics. I also gave you some very particular songwriting tips that I think are going to be useful for you. We talked about song structures. Then we started the recording series. You can check out the first video of the recording series by clicking here. So what we did was that we took that draft song that we created and we prepared our session in Pro Tools by recording the draft song. And then from that point, we continued by programming drums. And now, today, we are here to record the bass of our song. Okay, so the bass we will be recording today is a Fender Mustang bass. And this is a short scale bass, and being short scale gives it a special, I would say, more deep sound because of the length of the strings. And this is a very versatile bass in my opinion. It's got the combination of the pickups from the Fender's precision bass and the jazz bass. And there's a selector, and you can toggle and select between just having the jazz bass pickups, which are on the next side of the bass, or you can choose the precision bass pickups, which are on the next side of the bass. But in my opinion, I like to keep the selector in the middle. It is a combination of both pickups, and I think it gives it a pretty interesting sound. Also, I like to keep the whole tone knob all the way up. That's my preference for recording. I will not be using an amp. If it was a different circumstance, I would love to amp or at least reamp the bass, but in this case we'll go direct and plug it directly into the interface. Let's jump straight into Pro Tools and let's continue with the recording process of our song. Hello friends, so we're back in our session. So let me just tell you a couple of things here. I am sort of like rearranging the tracks as I move forward. So I created this auxiliary track that is called All Music Out, and here is where I will be just basically summing all of the instruments, all of the music for later processing and mixing. I have the drums here that are routed to this auxiliary channel here. And this is the bass channel. Actually, I'm going to rename it here. And this is also going to go to this All Music Out auxiliary bus. And what I have here is I'm using Amplitube to simulate a bass amp. What I have here is a simulation of a Ampeg X SVX. With the cap, I've been playing around with this a little in order to get the sound that I wanted. So I tested a few caps. If you guys have this program, or you can use any other, what I have found is that when you play around with the microphone placement, the sound changes quite a bit. I also personally like the room to be a dead room, but anyways, I'm still using and mixing into the signal a little bit of room sound from this room mics here and from this stereo pair, although the signal that I have here is a mono signal That's what I'm going to be using for the bass. But the overall, the mix of all of those settings is the sound that I'm liking for the amp. So it sounds something like this. All right, and so first I'm going to make sure that the bass is tuned, and or at least, as tuned as possible. All right, even though one tip that I have for you guys, something that I'll do later on, is actually while I'm editing, I'm also going to tune the bass. That is something that I usually do. I think the bass is very important for it to be on tune because it is the foundation of all the harmonies and the overall tuning of the song. But for now, let's just get started with the recording. And I'll show you, this is my process so far. I created a channel and I'm going to start recording. If I need to do several takes, Pro Tools has an option to do that, to take several takes. But in this case, if I need to, I'm just going to create a second channel. And then during the edit, just leave one single take for the bass. But for now, let's get started with the recording. Intenté encontrarte, fama, sexo, drogas y rock and roll. I messed up. Gonna try that again. Intenté encontrarte, fama, sexo, drogas y rock and roll. Okay, so I will just fast forward and I will create another channel just in case I mess up again. And so that I'm able to punch in and punch out using this additional track. And I'll just fast forward and see you guys later in a little while. All right, guys, so this is what I've done so far. As you see, I have already recorded the bass, and what I did is that I used a couple of tracks to do some punches, and I ended up with the version of the bass that I like. Now, my next step in this process is to do edits. So I was actually thinking about quantizing the bass so that it is properly aligned to the grid, but I'm not sure about doing that because the drums are already quite perfect because they are programmed. So maybe if I keep the bass like that, it is going to be a little more human. And I was basically checking it out, and there are not very many places where it is way off from the grid. So, but this would be my next step. So I would just listen to it and see if there are any edits needed. Something else that I wanted to show you guys is that in these past few days, I was thinking about the song, and I was thinking that maybe there was something missing. I was imagining this part around the end of the chorus in the bridge part of the song that would be, just something like a natural progression of that section that says, Jesús es el rey del amor. I was imagining something like, dun, dun, dun. I don't know how to explain it. Something that sounds sort of like The Who, what they do in their intro, something like that. And I was, anyways, I started playing around with this, and I did something on the drums, and I basically ended up with a new part, a new addition that goes in the section of the bridge right after the second chorus and before the solo. And it sounds something like this. Kind of reminds me as well as reminds me of the grunge of the 90s, something like I would hear on Stone Temple Pilots maybe. And then we hit the solo. I'm not 100% sure about it, to be honest with you guys. It's not convincing me. I'll leave it there and I'll see how it goes. I will wait until I have it recorded and I will see if I like it, if it still sounds good to me. And this is like a pre-production process. This is a phase, this is a moment for us to explore and think about ideas, and this is what I'm basically doing for the song. So I decided to make an additional change, and now the song is lasting about 4 minutes and 20 seconds. I don't like it is longer than 4 minutes, but oh well, I really wanted to have something there, something different there, and it definitely takes the listener to a new place musically, and I hope that it fits in the overall context of the song, so I'll wait for it, but I will wait and see. We still have a long way to go, but for now, this is the bass. So I have recorded the bass. I'm just going to see if there are any, places where it should be edited, maybe something that is not too a lot on the grid. So let's hear some of it, just so you guys hear what it ended up being like and how it sounds like. Ya es hora de empezar a descubrir cuál será la mejor alternativa. Pero yo quisiera responder canciones y alegrías. Era una solución. Pero tú me guiaste a la verdad absoluta, me llevaste a la vida real, la vida que siempre. Okay, so to me it sounds quite on the grid. I don't think there are many edits to be made, but I had already found this one here that I think that I definitely need to edit, and I just wanted to show you guys the way I do it. So this track, it has the elastic audio enabled so that I can make changes, elastic changes to the waveform. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this transient to where it should be. And let me just get back here for a moment. And let me get to 8. The grid to 8. There it is. I'm going to cut this one here. And yeah, so I'm going to use elastic audio just to bring this one back here and this transient over here so that it should sound better. Let's take a listen to it. Yeah, it is on the grid. It is much better now. One thing that if you work with elastic audio and you haven't done so before and you're not familiar with it, at least in Pro Tools, sometimes when I work with elastic audio or quantize, it sometimes messes the waveform. So it is important to check it out and make sure that it is sounding okay and doesn't have any clicks or pops. Okay, so it sounds fine, but for example, I was able to hear a little click here, so I'm just gonna fade it off. Sometimes there's a click that is very hard to identify, but it's better not to have them. And also, what I was referring to is that sometimes it just messes the wave. Sometimes when you use elastic audio, it just adds some noise, some horrible noise. So you just have to make sure and be careful when you use it and make sure that it still sounds natural. I think it happens when you stretch the wave a lot and it ends up with a strange noise at the end, or at the end of the tail of the wave. But that's it. Just these would be the edits that I would do to the bass. The next step for me would be to tune the bass, because the bass, it is very important. It is the foundation, musical foundation of the song. So I rather give it a tune using a Melodyne. That's the method that I use. Some alternative thing that one could do is to program an additional bass with a synthetic bass sound, but that would reinforce the tuning of the overall song. I've seen other people doing that. I have done it myself, and also it also gives it a little more weight at the bottom of the frequency range if you have a doubled bass, and you could use a programmed bass along with this one. I'm not going to do that this time. I'm just going to leave it as it is, and unless later on in the process I think it is needed. But for now, I'm just going to leave it like this, and the next step is I'm going to just tune it using a Melodyne. Okay, so the next step in my process is that I'm going to include the Melodyne plugin into this bass track, and what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to tune the bass. I try to, tune it myself as best as I can, but, it is not perfect. Even though I tuned the instrument several times, it could get a little off. So basically what I'm going to do with this software is to correct that. But for now, I just, record it, hit transfer here in a Melodyne, and start playing the song. And what it does is it records the whole thing. Now I have it recorded here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of the notes from the bass performance. As we see here, there is a grid, and it detected that the song is in the key of B minor, which is not. It is actually in the key of A, according to me, of course. Maybe those notes from the bridge are a little confusing, but anyways, I'm just going to make sure that every bass stroke is hitting a note properly, and I will then check each one of them and correct them as I will show you right now. So I'm going to hit this button, which corrects the tuning of our bass. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change or to adjust the pitch center all the way to 100. I'm not going to touch the fluctuation of pitch, because fluctuation resembles what someone would do when they're singing and they do a vibrato. So if you move this all the way to 100, it will just flatten out the note, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. I think that it makes it sound a little more natural if I don't move this control down here. And in vocals, if you move this control down here, that's what in a way makes your voice sound robotic. That's an effect you may be after, but right now it's not something that I'm going to do. No, I'm not planning on doing. So I'm just going to leave it like this, hit accept, and I will basically audition the performance, the correction, what the software did, and make sure that each and every single note is correct. If there is a mistake, for example, if this note is not correct, I'll just move it to the spot where I need it to be, and that would be it. So I'm going to do this for the whole song. I will fast forward and I will show you guys the end result after I finish with this process. Okay, so I have finalized editing the bass, and I finalized the tuning process of the bass. As you can see here, every note is on the grid, and I made sure that it was sounding good. So I'm pretty happy with that, because bass is the foundation, the musical foundation of our song, and that's going to be perfectly on tune. And, the sound was not affected as well, at least that I could perceive. So to me, it is okay. So the next thing that I'm going to do is, since I already tweaked, the sound, and I searched and I spent some time looking for the sound for the bass that I wanted, I'm going to commit this track as if I had recorded it directly from the amp. This will also help me save some memory. And one cool thing about this is that this original track is going to be hidden, but it will be saved, and I will be able to come back to it if I ever need it. So I will have the original recording, the original takes. But for now, I will just commit the track. Okay, I'm going to deactivate the elastic audio because I don't need it anymore. Let's listen to it for a little bit.
Sin dirección, sin saber dónde ir, me entregué al placer, sin control y sin satisfacción. Pero tú me guiaste a la verdad.
All right, I think it is ready. This would be it for now. The bass of our song is ready now. Okay, so that would be it for the recording process of the bass. That is my approach. It is quite simple, but I hope that some of the tips and methods that I used are useful for you and you can maybe implement them in your own recording process. I would love to hear from you. What do you think about it? If there is anything else that maybe you could suggest to me to improve my process, I would really appreciate that. I think we can learn from each other and have a discussion about it. Just let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know if you are doing your own song and if you would like to share it with me. I would love to hear it. If you haven't, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If this content is adding or giving value to you, don't forget to hit the like button. So what's going to happen next is that we have already the drums and the bass. So the next step in my recording process is to record guitars. So that's a very exciting step, but it could also be a little frustrating. We will still need to record rhythm guitars, lead guitars, and do some arrangements. So stay tuned to the channel. I am uploading videos weekly. I may throw one video here and there with additional content, but in the meantime, thank you so much for being with me on this journey, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.